Ilhan Omar's name has always been tied to both politics and controversy. Recently, during one of her interviews, she spoke out against Donald Trump with strong and bold remarks. Her words carried the tone of someone who was fearless and unshaken, as if nothing could intimidate her. The statements quickly spread across major news outlets and began circulating widely on social media. Supporters praised her courage, calling her a powerful voice who dared to speak the truth. On the other hand, critics claimed her words were unnecessary, reckless, and could create bigger problems for her. Public opinion instantly became divided. Some saw her as a hero standing tall, while others believed she had gone too far this time. Yet behind this clash of voices, one reality was clear. In the world of politics, even a single statement can spark a storm. Omar's latest comments had done exactly that, setting the stage for an even bigger confrontation that no one could ignore. Donald Trump was never the kind of person to let sharp criticism pass without an answer. When Ilhan Omar's remarks started gaining attention, it didn't take long for him to respond. During one of his rallies, standing before a massive crowd of cheering supporters, Trump decided to address Omar's statements head-on. His tone was firm, almost warning, and his words carried the weight of someone who wanted to make his position very clear. He challenged her directly, saying that her comments were not only unfair but also dangerous for the country's unity. Trump reminded people of his record, his policies, and how he had always been ready to confront anyone who tried to undermine him. The crowd roared in approval, turning his response into a powerful moment that spread quickly across television networks and online platforms. Clips of Trump's reaction went viral within hours. His supporters hailed him as strong and unshakable, while critics argued that his words would only increase tension. But one thing was undeniable. Trump's response was not ordinary. It was sharp, personal, and delivered with the kind of intensity that made it impossible to ignore. Donald Trump has always been known for his quick and fiery responses, especially when someone in politics openly challenges him. The moment Ilhan Omar's remarks started to dominate headlines, it was almost expected that Trump wouldn't stay silent. And just as everyone predicted, he used one of his rallies as the perfect stage to fire back. Standing on the podium, with thousands of supporters chanting his name, Trump shifted his focus directly toward Omar. His voice grew louder, his expressions sharper, and his words cut through the noise of the crowd. He accused her of disrespecting not just him, but the values of the country. He insisted that her statements weren't bold or courageous, as her supporters claimed, but instead reckless and harmful. In Trump's eyes, Omar's words had crossed a line, and he made sure everyone listening understood that. He reminded the crowd of his years in power, how he had faced criticism countless times, and how he had always stood firm. Then, with the kind of directness that only Trump is known for, he warned that no one could attack him publicly without facing consequences in the political arena. The crowd erupted, cheering and chanting louder with every sentence he delivered. The energy in the room turned his speech into a spectacle, one that left a mark on everyone present. Within hours, clips of Trump's response were everywhere, on television, social media, and trending across platforms. Supporters framed it as a powerful comeback, proof that Trump remained unshaken and strong. Even those who opposed him admitted that his words carried weight and force. The tone of his reply was more than just political pushback. It sounded like a warning. And that was the detail that made it impossible for Omar, or anyone watching, to simply brush aside. On the outside, Ilhan Omar continued to present herself as calm and collected. In her public appearances, she carried the same confidence she had always shown, speaking firmly and refusing to let her critics see any sign of weakness. But behind closed doors, the atmosphere was very different. The intensity of Trump's response had shaken her inner circle, and the pressure around her was growing heavier by the hour. Her advisors gathered to discuss the situation, pointing out how quickly Trump's words had spread and how the media was framing the story. Some warned her that this was not just another exchange of words. Trump's reaction was personal and forceful, and it had already stirred a wave of hostility against her. Omar listened quietly, but inside, she could feel the unease building. She knew that Trump's influence over his base was strong, and the way he had singled her out could create real risks, not just politically but also personally. Friends close to her noticed the change. In private conversations, she admitted that the backlash was large. She was aware that every move she made from this point forward would be under a microscope. Even her staff advised her to be cautious with her next statements, reminding her that one wrong word could intensify the storm. For the first time, Omar felt that the ground beneath her was not as steady as it once seemed. Though she tried to maintain her fearless image in public, in private, she was forced to consider the weight of Trump's words. The realization was slowly sinking in. This wasn't just a political debate anymore. It was turning into a direct confrontation, and the risks were becoming too real to ignore. The media wasted no time turning Trump's response into a headline story. Major networks replayed his rally clips on a loop, analyzing every word he had said about Ilhan Omar. Political commentators debated fiercely, with some praising Trump's strength while others argued that his remarks crossed a dangerous line. The story dominated primetime discussions, and it became impossible to scroll through social media without seeing Omar's name trending. On Twitter and Facebook, thousands of posts poured in. Trump's supporters amplified his message, calling Omar unfit for her position and demanding accountability. Hashtags against her began to circulate, gathering momentum with every passing hour. At the same time, her own supporters tried to defend her, but their voices were drowned out by the sheer volume of criticism. What had started as a simple interview comment had now spiraled into a national controversy. For Omar, the pressure was suffocating. News crews began camping outside her office, eager to catch a statement. Even in her hometown, people were divided, with some showing support while others expressed disappointment. Online threats, harsh comments, and endless criticism added to the growing stress. Every article, every headline, and every debate seemed to paint her as the center of a political firestorm. What made it worse was how quickly the narrative shifted. In the eyes of many, this was no longer just about one statement. It had become a test of her strength, her credibility, and her future in politics. The weight of public pressure was closing in, and she knew that even the smallest move from her could either calm the storm or make it explode further. Ilhan Omar had always been known for standing her ground, no matter how intense the criticism became. But this time felt different. As the days passed after Trump's fiery response, the pressure around her only grew heavier. Her advisors sat with her late into the night, carefully laying out the reality of the situation. They explained that this was not just a war of words anymore. Trump's warning had already triggered a shift in public opinion, and the backlash against her was becoming dangerously personal. Omar listened in silence, her usual confidence giving way to a deep unease. She began to realize that every decision she made could now carry serious consequences. The flood of negative attention was not only damaging her political image, but was also raising concerns about her safety. Messages from critics had grown sharper, and the hostile tone across social media was unlike anything she had faced before. For the first time, the weight of the storm truly sank in. Her closest friends urged her to step back, at least for a while, and avoid making bold statements. Some even suggested softening her stance or releasing a statement that would calm tensions. It was difficult for her to consider. Silence was never her style. But the fear was real now. Trump's words had placed her under a spotlight she could not escape, and the risks of continuing on the same path felt overwhelming. In private moments, Omar admitted to herself what she would never say in public. She was scared. The confident voice the world had seen days earlier now gave way to hesitation and doubt behind closed doors. The situation had pushed her into unfamiliar territory, forcing her to rethink her strategy and reconsider how much she was willing to risk. The turning point had come. She could no longer deny that Trump's response had shaken her more deeply than she ever expected. As the dust settled from days of relentless headlines, Ilhan Omar found herself at a crossroads. She sat quietly with her advisors, weighing the risks of her next move. Should she fight back and risk fueling the storm even further, or should she step back and protect what remained of her political standing? The questions hung heavily in the air, and there were no easy answers. For the first time in her career, Omar was forced to consider silence as a strategy. The bold words she had once delivered so freely now felt dangerous, like stepping onto a battlefield without armor. She drafted statements but tore them up again, unsure of how they would be received. Every decision seemed to carry the weight of her entire future. Meanwhile, Trump's supporters celebrated his reply, claiming it had exposed her weaknesses.